All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We are looking at the weekly news summary for the week ending January 18th, 2026. And looking at the story this week, it feels less like just tech news and more like, I don't know, like the sci-fi promises are finally getting the actual infrastructure built under them.
It really does. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about software updates anymore, are we?
No.
The sources this week point to these massive physical bets. We're talking $10 billion chip deals, entire AI parks in India, and, well, a very literal attempt to wire the cloud into our biology.
So I guess the mission for this deep dive is to follow that money. Let's try to connect the dots between the plumbing, the chips and data centers and what that means for the end user, which might soon be happening inside our heads.
Let's start with the plumbing then, because the numbers are just eye-watering. OpenAI dropped a $10 billion figure this week.
Right, that's the deal with the chipmaker Cerebras. And what jumped out at me wasn't just the price tag, it was the specific hardware. They're not just buying standard training chips.
No, they're not.
They secured 750 megawatts of compute, specifically for inference.
And that distinction is so crucial. Training is the huge, expensive process of teaching the model. Inference is the model actually doing the work, running the code, answering your query.
So if they're spending billions on inference through 2028, they're betting on massive volume. They expect these models to be running constantly.
Constantly, exactly. They're preparing for a world with zero latency, where the AI it never sleeps. And that pivots perfectly to the other big OpenAI headline.
The Merge Labs investment.
Yep.
This is the startup co-founded by Sam Altman. It just raised a $250 million seed round?
A seed round, yes.
The headline is Brain-Computer Interface, or BCI, but this is not Neuralink. We should be very clear. They aren't drilling holes in anyone's skull.
No, and that's the whole point here. It's about accessibility. Neuralink needs surgery. Merge Labs is using ultrasound.
So they're trying to read neuron activity from outside the head.
That's the goal. High-powered ultrasound waves to map what's happening inside. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry.
And if you can get high bandwidth communication between a brain and an AI without surgery, and you combine that with all that inference compute we just mentioned, well, the implications are wild.
You get a loop, you get an AI that isn't a tool you pick up, it's a layer that runs alongside your thoughts in real time. That's the vision.
Okay, so while Silicon Valley is trying to wire our brains, the rest of the world seems to be trying to wire India. The activity in Bengaluru this week was just frantic.
It's a full-blown gold rush. You have Anthropic, the makers of Claude, hiring Irina Ghosh, who was the former MD of Microsoft India.
So they're getting serious.
Very. India is already their second largest user base, so this is them moving from just passive growth to aggressive enterprise sales.
But it's not only the private sector. We saw this really interesting idea pop up from the government side, the sovereign AI park.
Yeah, this is the deal between the Tamil Nadu government and Sarvam AI. It's fascinating because usually a government just, buys software.
Right.
Here, they're building an entire state-controlled ecosystem. The data centers, the model training, the apps, everything, all within one district.
It's about data sovereignty, isn't it? They don't want citizen data or their tax systems sitting on a server in Virginia.
Exactly. And speaking of tax, the Indian Tax Board just gave a $360 million contract to LTIMindtree for something called Insight 2.0.
Which is basically an AI analytics platform to modernize tax enforcement?
It's a signal to every other government out there. AI isn't just for writing emails anymore, it's for running the machinery of the state.
And yet, just as you think everything is being automated, we saw a really sharp counter-signal this week. An Indian startup called Emversity.
Right. They just doubled their valuation to $120 million.
And they did it by betting on the jobs AI can't do. They're calling it gray-collar work.
Things like nursing, paramedicine, hospitality management. Roles that require a physical presence and, real human empathy.
It makes a lot of sense. Emversity is training people for the jobs you can't automate. You can automate a tax code, but you can't automate putting in an IV.
Though the big tech giants are certainly trying to get as close to that IV as they can. I mean, we saw medical AI tools launched by Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI, all within about 48 hours of each other.
But the nuance there is really important. These are for workflow support, right? Reading charts, summarizing patient history.
Exactly. None of them are diagnosing patients. Not yet. They're trying to fix the administrative crisis in healthcare, not replace the doctors.
So if we pull back and look at the recent Forbes guidance for 2026, the message really lines up with all this. It's all about automating the boring stuff.
If you're doing manual reporting or data entry in 2026, You're doing work a machine can do cheaper and faster, your value has to move upstream to strategy.
To that human connection. The gray collar stuff.
And that, I think, brings us to the end of our deep dive. We've gone from ultrasound brain readers to sovereign AI parks.
And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on. We saw OpenAI buying massive capacity for inference, for the constant running of these models, while at the same time investing in brain interfaces.
It really makes you ask the question, are we moving away from using AI like a calculator and moving toward a world where AI is a constant, always-on background process for our own consciousness?
Something to think about. Thanks for listening.